are back here at Emerald Scientific on day one, and man, we have had Destiny. Have we had an amazing group of people so far?
Dude, my brain is full of new information.
I consider it one of the Dimitri Downing again with Destiny Blanco, and we are here hosting some of the great minds and interviewing them at Emerald Scientific, and it's our pleasure and our honor to be here, and we thank MJ Biz for letting us be here. And it is amazing how much we learn talking to people. Mm-hmm. You know, it is absolutely amazing. And right now, our next guest is Wes Burk, the president CEO of Emerald Scientific.
That's right.
Nice
Thanks
to
for
meet
having
you.
Me. Yeah, nice to meet you too. I'm really glad to be here.
Nice to meet you. And so this to get the confusion out of the way, because we haven't explained this. Emerald Scientific is owned by Emerald.
Yeah,
this is the weird part.
Emerald Scientific is a distribution company. So we sell technical products, scientific equipment and supplies into the cannabis space, and we started that in 2013. When we started Emerald Scientific, the major problem that we set out to solve was access to high-quality scientific products for analytical laboratories, so for the quality assurance testing. Mm-hmm. And they were really struggling. The large suppliers of those kinds of products would not sell to cannabis testing labs in the early days. So we were born out of the need to bridge that gap between labs and quality scientific equipment and supplies. Mm-hmm. In 2013, when we started, we realized that in addition to needing access to these products, there was a vacuum around information and collaboration relative to current science in the cannabis space. So there were some really great conferences. I mean, MJ Biz was already up and running their big, business to business show, but that's a very broad show. It caters to a diverse audience, wide group of players, but nowhere yet had really emerged a science specific or science focused venue for collaboration and sharing current sciences. So Emerald Scientific founded the Emerald Conference.
Okay.
And that's how this got started. So our first Emerald Conference...
You just made things worse for me.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to get there. Emerald Scientific founded the Emerald Conference, which I refer to as the Emerald Scientific Conference. That's just me. So Emerald Scientific founded the Emerald Conference, which has now been sold to Emerald.
It's been sold it was sold to MJ Biz, and then a company that doesn't have anything to do with Emerald Scientific, that's been around, frankly, much longer than we have, came and bought MJ Biz, and that company happens to be Emerald. So yes,
like
it's gotten confusing.
Pac-Man.
It's really interesting. When we first saw news about the transaction between Emerald and MJ Biz, of course, the hair on the back of our neck stood up. We thought, what the heck is going on here? But yeah, we learned that these guys have been around for a very long time in the media game, and we have come to very much respect them and what they do in the space. So I know it makes it challenging from a nomenclature standpoint, but it doesn't offend us. The more that people use the term Emerald Scientific, the better for us.
Yeah, the bigger people are noticing your name. People
sure.
I saw you and I said, hey,
yeah,
you're the dude running the show.
Yeah.
So the Emerald Conference is still going, and it's great content, some great individuals. Okay, so that Emerald Conference is going. And it's owned by MJ Biz, which is owned by Emerald. That's okay. Emerald Scientific, the company, is that still around?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's always kind of been our core business. I mean, when we first started, we did three things. So the core business, which is the distribution of products, and then the Emerald Conference, and then the third kind of tier of the stool, or the third leg of the stool for us, is the Emerald Test, which is a proficiency test which serves the cannabis testing industry, and it's required both from a regulatory standpoint as well as an accreditation standpoint for laboratories to participate in a proficiency test. And so we started that in 2014 as well, and that's still going strong. So now we operate the Emerald Test. We do it through Emerald Scientific. Emerald Scientific, and we sell just about everything you can imagine that a lab, whether it's a quality assurance lab or an extraction lab, would use to operate, right down to gloves, mats,
It's like a startup company could reach out to you and basically get everything they need.
Yeah, a lot of labs, quality assurance labs or extraction labs, when they first get into business, they come to us and we help build their lab from the ground up. So everything that a lab might need, from equipment right down to the daily supplies and consumables, we offer all of that. We've got about 20,000 SKUs available on our website, with access to well over 1 million through the vendors that we work with. Some of the big players in science across all industries, like Millport Sigma, are they're a vendor of ours.
So was Emerald Scientific servicing the cannabis industry prior to, when did it start?
We started in 2013 to bridge this gap between cannabis testing labs and access to the types of products that they need to operate. And
so you happened to be in that space and you saw the need.
Well, we weren't in the space. We saw the need, and we started a distribution company specifically for the cannabis industry because of this challenge of lack of access to quality products.
Right. What were you distributing?
At the time, what we really needed, and this was an interesting kind of chicken and egg situation for us, because vendors typically don't like to work with distributors until the distributor has a client base. Mm-hmm. But it's very difficult to get a client base if you don't have anything to sell.
Right.
So our situation was unique because many of the manufacturers of these products saw the opportunity in cannabis, but many of them are publicly traded companies, and they weren't comfortable interfacing directly with the cannabis industry. So to insert a third party in the middle that they could deal with, that was not plant touching, and then can distribute those products to the plant touching labs, was something that they were quite interested in, because it was pretty obvious that the cannabis industry was going to take off. So we established vendor relationships, in late 13 and early 14, built a small product portfolio, largely around reference materials. So it's kind of it's complex. It has to do with chromatography, but basically there are chemicals that you need to do quality assurance or analytical testing on anything, whether it's petrochemical, pharmaceutical, food, and access to those particular reference materials and reference standards was the kind of the foundation. That's the first product line that we built to give access to testing labs, which empowered them to do things like potency testing in the early days.
And what is how do you find out about this stuff? What's your background? You said you were in real estate. I did a little real estate. I don't know this stuff.
Yeah, I had the good fortune of having a really close friend who's a serial entrepreneur. His name is Ken Snoke, and he came out of biotech and immunology. So he was a lab rat. He worked in the lab for many, many years and understood all of these things that I had no clue about.
Right.
He and I
who you hang out with, Destiny.
Yeah, it's all about your environment, the people you involve yourself with.
It
I
really
got the wrong friends.
And we had a close friendship, and
I'm a good friend.
He had seen some success that I had gained in building a real estate organization, a brokerage organization on the Central Coast, and so I think he thought that he could bring the technical knowledge and expertise, and that I might be a good general business partner, and I like to think that it worked out.
Yeah, no, look at you today. I mean,
we're doing okay.
And is he still working with you?
He is. He's like I said, he's a serial entrepreneur. So about a year and a half ago, he went and started another company.
In cannabis?
No, he's gotten into drones, payload drones. So completely different industry.
That's lucrative.
Okay, write this down. Okay, payload drones. We're doing some research on Monday. We don't have to talk about payload drones, but he just gave us a little tip. So, no, that's great. So your day-to-day, you're running Emerald Scientific. That's your focus?
That's correct, yeah.
And do you have any other projects? I mean, this is probably a full-time thing enough. I'm just wondering if I don't want to leave anything out that that's coming exciting on the horizon, or...
No, I mean, we try to stay involved. We participate in the Emerald Conference still, and I serve on the California Cannabis Industry Association.
CCIA.
And, I've been on
we like them.
The Quality Assurance Committee for them for a few years now. So, we do our share of what we think is contributing to the betterment of the industry, but... Yeah, we've got about 30 employees at Emerald Scientific. We've got sales reps all over the country. We sell materials all over the world. So It certainly keeps me on my toes as president and CEO. It's more than a full-time job.
And so your products are manufactured around the globe, and then they come through you guys. And
Yeah, I mean, most of our products, well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I started to say most of our products are manufactured in the U.S., but that's not true. I mean, a fair number of products, the consumable end of our product range is made overseas. So, yeah, we've enjoyed all the fun that the supply chain challenges of the last few years have presented.
so you're probably having to figure out how payload drones merges with cannabis.
No, I don't spend any time thinking
No,
about
you
that.
don't. See,
Ooh, wait,
he's
I got
focused.
it. I got it. They could deliver cannabis.
Right. Well, obviously,
well,
but
they could. These drones were they're
Oh,
the ones that Ken's developing. They have a few applications, and agriculture is one of the big ones. So both for drying crops in areas where crops gain moisture overnight and need to be dried. These drones, they can just fly these down rows with acute precision, and just the wind created by the props of these drones will actually dry trees or
You're
vines.
kidding.
Yeah.
this is way over my head.
Yeah, so that
But it's worth the research. I didn't even know that this was happening.
Yeah, and the other thing, if you ever travel the Central Valley in California, you've seen, the crop dusting and things like that goes on with airplanes or helicopters, and this is another application for drones, which is, really good for the environment because, frankly, there's so much overspraying when you're using these bigger vehicles like helicopters or airplanes. These drones can be very precise. They can create the benefit of using these compounds without overspraying and without by using a small fraction of what's actually.
So the reach this is different than what I was thinking. I mean, the layman, the common man, the simple man thinks payload drones like Amazon kind of stuff, but you're at a whole nother level.
A whole nother level, yeah.
Yeah.
So Ken, you owe me one for plugging your new venture on,
Yeah.
on the podcast.
No, it's all good. We're counting the days until all the cannabis is grown outdoors. So you brought up something that's really interesting to me about the drones and the stuff. So we appreciate learning about drones today. But so 2013, 2022, that gives you like 9 years in cannabis. How much longer do you see yourself in the cannabis industry, or just kind of cruising along now?
No, I love this industry. It's been quite a roller coaster. As you can imagine, the first few years we just felt like we were strapped to a rocket. I mean, we definitely found an unmet need, and we enjoyed a period in the industry where we didn't really have a lot of direct competition. So we were really able to establish a brand and become what we think is a partner for our customers and clients. And we've fallen in love with the industry during all of that. Things have changed, and we've experienced ups and downs. We're headquartered in California, but we operate all over the U.S., and so we follow the markets all over the country. And one of the things that I'm sure you guys have realized that by now is that the markets are so different as they go through the process of maturation. So the more mature markets like California and Oregon and Colorado, they went through this boon where money was readily available, and there was just the growth curve was a vertical line, and it runs that way for a couple of years in new markets. I mean, we're seeing some of that in the East now. I mean, New York, New Jersey, some of those markets are just taking off, and it seems like nobody can do wrong. Everybody's trying to put a flag in the ground, and it seems easy. But as the market matures, you start to see consolidation, and you start to see some of the challenges that are occurring in
Right.
states like California right now. So we're suffering some pretty intense consequences of over-regulation, bad regulation, over-taxation. And what I never thought would happen is now we're seeing the black market or illicit market thrive again due to all of the pressure that's put on the licit market or the legitimate market. And that's something that I hope some of these states that are newer to legalization can take note of and try to avoid some of the pitfalls.
But it's fascinating because you bring up. Sorry, did you have a question?
No, I
So,
just add to it.
It reminds me how many dissertations will be written about the economics and the business of cannabis.
Oh yeah.
Because of these nuances, these intrastate nuances, the plant touching nuances, and as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, there's people being asked to invest in these large scale cultivations in New York and New Jersey, and with 10 million, $50 million, and federal legalization is going to change everything, and no one knows how it's going to change, but yet the money still comes in for those 1 to 2 years, and it almost seems like foolish money. But these are things that no, even extremely well educated businessman like yourself, there's no real answers to. It's complicated.
It is complicated, and there's a lot of unknown out there. I mean, you bring up a great point. Federal legalization, we don't know when it's going to happen. I think we all believe it will happen eventually. I think the potential for the tax benefit is going to eventually become too much to resist for the federal government, but it's going to change. It'll change everything. Interstate commerce will really help the industry balance out some of the supply and demand challenges that we're faced with now. You've got, states in certain regions with a lack of supply, and other states with a radical overabundance of supply, which is, killing the value of the commodity. And so we'd love to see, a federal framework, even if it's not full legalization. If we could get to a point where interstate commerce was allowed, if we can, get a more sensible tax code, if we can get rid of 280E, so that some of these folks that are doing fantastic business get to compete on a more level playing ground with other industries. It's just it's a little insane right now what it takes to succeed in the cannabis industry.
It's absolutely amazing, and it's good. I'm glad that it seems like you're kind of neutral on the subject. You're just kind of open minded, kind of looking at like hovering high above it with lots of years of experience and thought. I meet a lot of people who are concerned about their investment or their license.
Sure.
This is my little niche. This is my control of the supply chain in this intrastate plant touching market, and I'll be damned if I'm not going to let anybody touch it, and I'm going to lobby against it. And it's like, how is that all going to, come about, and what it means is just anybody's guess.
No, but I can understand the perspective. It's interesting. I think when the cannabis industry was young, a lot of us thought, well, this is going to be fantastic. It's a brand new industry, and it's going to give the small guys, the mom and pops, the opportunity to compete with the bigger players, because we have these state by state frameworks. And I think to some degree that's come to fruition. I think we're seeing it change, though, in these states that struggle, with oversupply. I mean, in California, the cultivators are just really struggling because the price of the commodity has come down so low that they can hardly produce it for a profit at these, at the current prices. So, yeah, I think it's a very complex industry. But at the end of the day, what my 10 years in the industry has taught me is that this plant is medicine.
Right.
And this it's not just medicine for consumers, it's medicine for the planet. And I believe that with all my heart, and I've seen story after story after story where this plant has had radically positive impacts on people's lives, and we know that maturation of this market is going to continue to reveal more that this plant has to offer, both to consumers as medicine and to the overall health of the planet. So we're pretty excited about that. I know that you spoke with Jeff Keller today. I think what he's doing is really fascinating.
Professor Keller.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like Miss Jackson if you're nasty. You call him Professor Keller.
He's built a lab that will do contract preclinical study. And, that's one of the things that we lack in the cannabis space. We've got thousands of years of use safety data, so we know that it's pretty safe to roll this stuff up and smoke it, but we don't really have the clinical work, so preclinical and clinical work, to really understand how and where this plant can have the most impact. And we're starting to see things like with MCREA, which I walked by and heard you guys talking a bit about the new regulation and how that is meant to help inspire and expedite clinical study of cannabis and the potential impacts. And what Jeff is doing is a great first step to give access to preclinical work to the small guys, because the drug development path typically is about a $250 million process, and more times that that experiment fails and doesn't render a viable drug. So what Jeff is doing is creating the opportunity for people to look at cannabinoids specific to issues or ailments. So he's got models where he can look at things like anxiety, look at things like sleep aid, and take formulations and give feedback about the potential efficacy, at least in vitro in preclinical models. And this is going to inform what this plant is capable of and inspire the next steps along the clinical and drug development process. And I think all of this is really good. And what I really love about what he's doing is it gives manufacturers who are already making a product. Let's say you're making a gummy and you've got CBN in it, and most of your clients tell you, hey, this stuff helps me sleep great. Well, that's anecdotal, but you can contract with somebody like Jeff now. You can do preclinical work and actually prove scientifically that it's working in vitro, and then you can start to tell people, we got anecdotal evidence that this helps sleep. Now we have evidence in cell culture that demonstrates how or why this should be working to improve your sleep, and we just get further towards legitimacy, which I think is what we really all want.
It literally is. Mr. Professor Keller is like literally doing next level stuff.
Yeah.
And, but that always interests me too, because, I didn't know much about substances or biology or substance use before I came into the cannabis industry in 2012. And I was a prosecutor, government relations, regulatory specialist, policy, etc. And my first question was, okay, 2012, it's all medical. This is pre-Colorado. So it's medical marijuana, so it's a medicine. Okay, cool. Well, so these hippies found a politically viable way to get high? Is that what's going on here? That was my attitude.
Sure.
Then I came in, my brother got some dispensaries in Arizona, and we started to study the plant. I started to study the community, study the industry. I started hanging out with the guys from Normal, started hanging out with the guys from MPP, started hanging out with all these organizations that really understood the community and the history and prohibition and the plant as a medicine, etc. And, I really realized there was two paths. There was the medicinal path and the recreational path, and perhaps all recreation is medication, which is another way of looking at things. But so, this whole 10 years has been a giant study for me in substance use, substance abuse, substance availability, and the proper role of the government.
Yeah.
And these things, any astute individual watches these things, learns about these things, and it's still going on. And the story is being told, and we do not know what the end is going to look like.
That's true.
And
it's exciting, though.
It's still being written.
It is such a privilege. I consider it such a privilege for myself I'm still a common man, a simple man. I don't understand everything, but to be involved and to have my mind on this topic, on this subject, in this industry, in this community, with the people, meeting all the people, understanding all the changes, and having the privilege and responsibility and time to think about questions like this.
Sure.
So, and my point of the whole thing is I realize that after all these years, we rely on aspirin, we rely on Tylenol to be a medicine. It's tested. They tested consistent. It does this, it does this, it does this. But yet you give it to 3 people and it's going to do something different. And nobody reflects on that.
It's true. No, it's a great observation.
Cannabis will always be that way as well.
Yeah, I think maybe even more than your typical single compound drugs.
How much time, effort, money, research, testing, has gone into Tylenol?
Oh, yeah.
And and how do you measure, I'm feeling the buzz of a Tylenol thing? I mean, what does that mean?
Right.
It's just a wild world. But it's certainly been a great adventure myself, and I can tell for you as well. Because you are clearly a person who's reflecting on things a lot. And I can tell that it's been a good adventure for you.
It has been. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to, another 10 years.
Yeah. No, I look forward to seeing what you're doing. I mean, Emerald Scientific is great. People should check out the website, but that doesn't touch the whole cannabis ecosphere.
It's true, yeah.
It's a sliver.
We're pretty focused on a sliver, yeah. The
but
lab space and scientific products, which is research also, but yeah, it is like you said, it's a sliver.
Yeah. But I can see like the origins of Emerald, the conference, came out of Emerald Scientific, not just because of your interest in conference. I mean, the interest probably because you're more of like a ecosphere community guy, you know, like a big picture guy. So there's some big picture thing coming out of you next. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it. Can you feel it too?
Well,
there's something there.
You know,
Unshackle it.
collaboration is kind of key for us. I mean, it's always been key in the success for me in my life and everything that I've ever done. And the Emerald Conference was born out of the need for a collaborative platform for these folks that are the brightest minds in science that are focused on cannabis.
Yeah.
And we've had countless scientists. There's one standing right over there, Marcus Rogan, that
oh wait, we're supposed to interview him. Where is he?
He's next on our schedule.
Oh, let's get Marcus.
He's talked to us about, prior to coming to the Emerald Conference, really feeling lost and lonely in the cannabis space because, you know, he's one of the brightest science minds in the world in any industry. And he felt very alone. He knew that good work was being done, but he didn't know where to go find the people and talk to the people. And the Emerald Conference was the first place where, you know, we started to create a venue where those guys could come together and share the work that they were doing and inspire one another and accelerate the work through collaboration. So I don't know what's next for me or for us, but I can tell you that collaboration is key and will always be a part of what we do.
Whatever you do next, we want to promote it because I'm sure it's going to turn out well.
Great, I appreciate
baby,
it.
Yeah,
he gave birth to this baby. It grew up. He sold the baby.
Yeah.
It sounds bad, but it's
he
normal.
left the baby on someone's porch.
No, it feels like that. I'm telling you, to be here, you know, is a strange feeling because it was our baby for years, and to have it married off and and with somebody else
18
now.
He married off the baby. The baby's in good hands. But there's like a
the
man.
The baby's gonna have a baby.
Maybe so.
I can feel something big's coming from you. So
well, I want to tell you guys thanks for what you're doing. Also, I think, you know, having a format and a venue to share stories and get information out, that's a real asset to the industry. So
it's about education, it's about access, it's about networking, it's about learning. This is why she's been with me for 6 years, because she's constantly learning. This girl knows so much. And
learning more today.
Yeah, no, and this format gives us the opportunity to interview people, and as we interview people, as we learn, so does anybody who's out there in the digital sphere learn.
Sure.
You know, and they have access to people post Emerald Conference that they wouldn't have access otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, if we did it live, then it wouldn't be good for business. I'm just kidding. You know,
no, that's a good point.
I'll just watch them live. You know, but so that's a good thing, and it's helpful. You put information out there, and people do whatever they want with it. So we appreciate your time, and we look forward to talking with you in the future.
All right, thanks a million.
All right, nice to meet you, man.
All right, take care.
That was another episode of MITA Unshackled.